And that's where we begin this week. With the renewal of the Israel-Palestine conflict, many African countries have had the gap between their economic and trade goals and their political and cultural realities come into sharp relief. Israel has made deep inroads into a continent traditionally sympathetic to Palestine, but Israel's gains have limits too. So on the Israel-Gaza war, why is Africa divided on supporting Palestine? Let's find out in our cover report.
African leaders were united in condemning violence in the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but remain deeply divided over who is to blame. Following the unprecedented attack on Israel by the militant group Hamas, a number of African leaders issued statements reacting to the violence. But in the first sign of disagreement, even they couldn't agree on whether to call it terrorism or war. Kenya's President William Ruto was the first to express solidarity with Israel, saying Kenya unequivocally condemns terrorism and attacks on innocent civilians in Israel. He said that in a long post on X, formerly Twitter. The international community must mobilize to bring the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, sponsors, supporters, and enablers of those reprehensible criminal acts of terrorism to account and speedily bring them to justice. The Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, and Zambia have also aligned themselves as pro-Israel. South Africa, on the other hand, has squarely placed the blame on Israel's actions, citing the illegal occupation and desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Christian religious sites.
All of us standing here, pledging our solidarity with the people of Palestine. We stand here because we are deeply concerned about the atrocities that are unfolding in the Middle East, and we have passed our condolences to the people of Israel as we are passing our condolences to the people of Palestine.
Africa's divisions highlight each government's attempt to align their interests and underline some countries strengthening ties with Israel. On the one hand, there are deep-rooted ties with the Palestinian movement. There is a historical attachment in the continent. African countries shedding the pain of brutal colonial rule in the 1960s were cold to a newly formed Israel and were sympathetic to the struggle of Palestinians uprooted from their land and homes in 1948. Following the October War of 1973, the Continental Bloc, then the Organization of African Unity, severed ties with Israel. Algeria has been a leading critic of Israel on the continent, even as its rivals Morocco's relations with Israel have blossomed after they agreed to normalize ties in 2020. After the 1973 war, only a handful of African nations retained relations with Israel. Yet, today, that tide has turned dramatically. 44 of 54 African countries recognize Israel's statehood, and close to 30 have opened embassies or consulates in Tel Aviv. Israel's widely recognized prowess in agriculture has helped its cause, at a time when many African countries battle drought, floods, and extreme weather phenomena at increasing frequencies. So are African governments two-faced about the Israel-Palestine conflict? Experts say that neither their seeming contradiction nor the divisions within Africa on the issue are surprising, and point to the recent split in positions after Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022.
We're standing in front of the American embassy here, and this is a message to the United States and all their supporters. If you love Israel as much as you claim to do, take them all to America. Exactly. We don't need them. Remove the cancer from the world. There's more than enough space in the United States. Take them to the Midwest. Take them to Wisconsin. Put them in Seattle or New York. We don't care.
And politics might soon seep into trade relations. While South Africa is the pillar of Israel's trade with the continent, there is growing pressure from civil society for Pretoria to take a clearer position in favor of Palestine. In 2022, South Africa's parliament passed a resolution to downgrade South Africa's diplomatic relations and embassy in Israel. If Israel's deadly bombardment of Gaza continues and is followed by a land invasion, expect such calls to grow. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.